Welcome. This is For Better and Worth,
the podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young. And we're so glad you joined us today.
All right, y'all, come on. Let's get into it. Hey, honey, sitting back down at the table having a conversation.
Yes, what's up, babe?
What's up is more money, more problems.
Oh, Lord. Do you really think that? I mean, because honestly, that's the question of the day.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, because, well, I know most people. If you ask the average person if having more money would create more problems, they say, no, that'll solve all of my problems because people think money solves everything.
Yeah.
But money does not solve everything.
Yes. So, shout out to the notorious B.I.G.
Big ups.
But I disagree. Like, I feel like it's not as simple as more money, more problems. I think the reason that people think more money will solve their problems is not what's really going to solve their problems.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think that and there's always this misconception that if I have more money, then everything is just going to, work out.
It's like every time that, people ask us for input or advice or, I'm sure you've seen this in your coaching days, like money is going to fix everything that we're going through. And you've had, I'm guessing, I know you've had a lot of different clients, but not that you don't even talk to me about those people, but maybe you could talk about it. But people think that if I make more money, it's going to fix everything, when I think they probably have some bad habits.
Yeah.
That probably need to be fixed before they get more money. And I have to put this out there right now at the beginning of the episode, because I am a firm believer that money only accentuates more of who you are. If you got a lot of money, you're going to be more of who you are, whether you have a little bit or a lot, right? And so if you're a really great person, you got a good heart and you want to give and you got a whole lot of money, then you're going to be more of that. But if you're a jerk and, you think the world revolves around you and you got a whole lot of money, you're just going to be a bigger jerk. And you're going to expect more of people, that they cater to you, because you're going to think you're whatever, you're all that.
Yeah. So I have a statistic that I just got to put out here because I love numbers, but this is the real deal. 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt. So they don't just even go back to their previous state that was not bankrupt. They go to a worse state. And that leads to the idea that more money brought them more problems. It brought them a bigger problem, and because they really did not have the skills, the knowledge, or even the people around them to ensure that they kept the wealth.
Right.
And so I think that there's something that we have to really explore here, because more money is not always the answer to everything you have going on.
Here's where I always go when I think about, more money. I grew up in the Motor City. And I love cars. And when people get more money, what's the first thing they want to do?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to get a new car. I'm going to get a Benz, or I'm going to get this. And now we're in that day of, I got to get a Lambo. And I don't even know if I could. I don't even think I would feel comfortable in a Lambo.
That's not your jam. But when people get raises, it is super common for them to upgrade a car.
Exactly.
Super common for them to eat up the entire raise on a monthly basis in a higher or a new car payment.
Right. And if you are, getting into higher income, you start to think, well, I'm supposed to have nicer cars, a nice Honda Accord EX, the top of the line one would have been sufficient. But now, no, you got to get a BMW 7 Series. You gotta get a 500 Series S-Class Mercedes. You gotta have the big boy whips and Land Rovers, Range Rovers, all of that. When people do not count the cost of ownership,
Yeah.
because you went from taking your Honda to Jiffy Lube and getting, a $50 oil change to now you got to go to the Mercedes dealer or you got to go to the Land Rover dealer, and oil changes are $500, $600, $700, $1,000 for some of these luxury cars. They do cost
is that real?
You can do the research on the backside, but the gearheads out there listening know that once you get some of these really high end cars, an oil change can cost.
That's blowing my mind right now.
Right.
Yes. So that's that part, and getting into another house, expanding lifestyle in any way, right? Getting into another house where the expectation is that your yard is all taken care of, and
you got to furnish the new house.
Yes, you got to make it look good. You don't want people coming in and it's looking empty. I remember when our daughter had a new friend and we went to her friend's house. I'm not going to leave my child at nobody's house that I haven't met their parents. I need to know where my kid
That's
is.
right, parents. You better know where your kid is going.
And she was like 4. She was young. She might have been 5, but she was young. And I needed to meet the parent. I need to make sure I knew where she was. I needed to get in the house. Like, I'm not about to leave you in somebody's house I ain't never been in either. So call me nosy, call me whatever you want. But I walked in, the house is beautiful. It's big. It's expansive. And it was brand spanking new, which meant that the landscaping was going to need to be done and all of that. And I walk in the house and it is like a ghost town. I mean, the bedrooms had stuff in it, but there was no living room furniture. The kitchen looked empty. I was like, what is going on here? There was nothing on the walls. And they had been there for a couple months. And so I'm like,
you know what, though? I can appreciate that to a degree.
Okay, hold on. This is a 5,000 square foot house. They got about 2-3 kids at the time.
That's a lot of house.
They have been there for a couple of months. And the landscape wasn't done. It was off to me. It was like, y'all got this big house and y'all can't furnish it. That's how I felt.
Right. You were thinking maybe they bit off more house than they probably could chew.
Exactly. And I didn't say anything. I just wanted to make sure my daughter was in a safe environment. But I noticed that, and I think that, we tend to make this assumption that if they can qualify us, or if we got this raise, or I just want to be in this neighborhood, I got to send my kid to this particular school because our neighborhood, this was a elevated neighborhood next, like adjacent to us. And so they would still go to the same school that our kids went to. And it's a nicer school in this little area, but it's a public school. And so sometimes people would move to get access to that school.
Yeah, I recall this.
And if your home is more than you can chew on, if you've bit off more than you can chew, it will show up. It will show up. And so anyway,
well, I'm gonna put your hat on. You are saying that from the perspective is usually my point of view. So I'm gonna put your point of view on just for a moment.
Let's go.
I could appreciate it in that maybe they were just gonna say, okay, this is the house we want. We're in this house. We can manage this, but we're not gonna go crazy. Mm-hmm. Because what I've seen the opposite of that too. Like,
sure.
Because we lived in an area where there were a lot of new construction, a lot of new houses being built. People moved more when we were there than I've ever seen people move.
They did. They got a new development over here, and then they would just be moving every 3 years.
Right. And so I've also seen people buy big houses like that, and then you go over there 2 months later, and the house is fully decked out.
On credit cards, let's be clear.
Right, because they have decided that, oh, we bought this nice big house that's beautiful. Now we have to make everything beautiful on the inside. And they go into debt and incur significant amounts of debt. So they have the appearance of something that looks good. And that's where they may be able to afford the mortgage, but then you start going and worrying about how people are thinking, what the perception is. That's part of More Money, More Problems, because now you trying to manage perception. You're trying to manage an image that maybe you're trying to curate for people, when maybe it would be better to just say, yeah, we can afford this house, this is where we want to be, but we're going to take our time to do everything else, to do it in a more feasible, economical way.
So this speaks to how you can create more problems for yourself when more money comes into your hand. You can go get the next thing, and then the trickle down effect is all of the other stuff that comes with that thing. The car with the more expensive maintenance, or the house that has all the landscaping that is needed.
More property tax.
Exactly, right?
More insurance.
Right. So we can create our own problems when more money comes into our hands. And that can be the challenge. And the other side of this is that more money can bring more problems from other people. Right. And I think that's the other side of it, is that some of the challenges that you might face when more money comes into your hand is external as well. So I want to talk about that too.
Yeah, I think when you start to think about those external factors that come in, because people look at you and see that they see you have more money, or they know you have more money, then you're going to get, can you help a brother out, or can you help a sister out?
They
Your
assume,
family.
a lot of people can assume that you have money.
Yeah, you have family and friends or other people that begin to ask you for money, or, depending upon the type of, Sunday morning establishment that you go to.
Ooh, okay.
They may have an expectation of more
Yeah.
from you because you have more. And so, I think it can be a number of different things. And now what I will say is that, look, we are all about people thriving and living their best life. We want you to go out there and get more money.
Go get it, all the money. Go get all the dollars. Let's leave no checks behind.
That's
we want to
right.
make sure bank accounts are full, okay?
But at the same time, we want you to have a methodical process about how you spend money, how you approach it. Count the cost of things before you jump into it. And don't let those external factors mitigate how you move. But let's talk about some of those. What are some of the other external factors that you see when we start talking about, a rise in income?
Yeah. One big one is kids' activities. Good Lord. Good night. Good goobly goop. That can be a whole can of worms, because children pull at our heartstrings. Most of the time, these kids are not asking for the club teams to play on. Most of the time, they're not asking for the designer clothes, and most of the time, they're not asking for the private school education. Most of the time, they're not asking for the private lessons. It is the parents, the adult parental units, who are wanting to give everything to our kids. And we don't realize how much that costs, how much it adds up to. I have in coaching sessions with clients added up how much they spend on their children. And I have actually seen where they're spending the amount on their kids. And I'm not talking about childcare. Childcare is a beast in and of itself. I'm talking about...
You're talking about all the extras.
I'm talking about all of the extras, the activities, all of the things, the toys, the Amazon run, all of it, the not saying no to eating out because of the kids, all of it. When I have added this up or I have had a client add it up, and it equals a mortgage payment.
Oh my goodness.
We got a problem, right?
Look.
And so this is a problem they created.
Right.
That was not external, but when you have more money, it's easy to create more problems. And though people don't see it as a problem, a responsibility that is every single month or every single year can become a problem because it is a burden on you.
You can solve that problem. Put them little jokers to work. Like, y'all better get a job.
Okay, but you're not gonna put your little 10-year-old to work,
Look,
husband.
I'd be like, look, little Jimmy,
You
it's
always
time to get a paper route.
You always want somebody to have a. Now, I have an appreciation.
You know,
for that.
I always want somebody to have a job.
I know
Yes.
you do.
I'm looking to try and employ our dog. If anybody out there listening, need a nice little dog on your logo label,
That's
hit us
true.
up.
Yes,
You need some income.
Bear needs some income. But how old were you when you got your first job?
14.
Okay.
I had a paper route before that, though.
Yeah. And how old were you when you started the paper route?
I had to be like 12 when I had a paper route. And I was delivering papers in the cold. I was delivering them after. I was delivering the afternoon paper. So I would come home from school, got a stack of papers sitting on my porch. Had to go get my bike. Look, don't get me going.
I know.
These little jokers out here now playing Call of Duty and Fortnite. Get up. Go cut some grass. Take out the garbage. Do something.
No, seriously, that is real talk. But you know what's so funny is that's old school, babe. Like,
They don't even have paper routes no more.
dude, if I saw somebody on their bike with a backpack full of papers, I'd be like, what century are we in? Is this?
You know what's funny? The paper boy, quote unquote, now drives a car.
Yes.
And the car, they deliver papers like 4 a.m.
Yes.
And they got a route that's like 1,000 houses. So it's like a real job now. It's not like my 2 or 3 block paper route that I had.
Yes.
So it's definitely different.
It is.
But when you talk about parents, and I think about like extracurriculars and, you know, like kids playing volleyball, and they got travel volleyball, and travel soccer. And let's be honest, some like 80%, 85% of these kids are not going to play soccer or volleyball at the Division 1 or 2 level where they're going to get free education.
Because a lot of people use that as an excuse to pay for their kids to go through these travel clubs.
They know good and well that these kids are not. Some of them are going to make it.
We have this fantasy where it makes us feel better about the expense, and therefore we pay it because we feel like at some point maybe Johnny will make the soccer team in college and it pays for his college, and it's cheaper to pay $5,000 a year today than it is to pay for a $20,000 a year college education.
Yeah, well, I don't know many schools that have like equestrian teams, and I heard about some people like kids on equestrian lessons, and I was like, look, we ain't had that in the hood, so I ain't see horses until I was an adult.
And I think that shapes how we feel about it too. I think that honestly, let's just be real, because you did grow up in the hood, and
you started to look at that as elitist. And,
yes, and
that's the super rich, and
I did what was at the school. I was a cheerleader. I didn't have any private lessons or anything like that, but I did not. No, let me back up. I didn't have private lessons for cheerleading.
You were a pop locking cheerleader.
Okay, hush up now. Hush up.
Your mama said you ugly.
You know what? That's funny because I'm pretty sure I did that cheer. But anyway, nobody asked you for your input, okay?
Wow.
But my mother did pay for dance lessons. She did pay for dance lessons. And I actually...
the pop, lock, and cheer.
Listen, you're right. I did take dance for a long time. My mother paid for my sister and I to go through dance. That was the one thing she paid for. And that's what's interesting. And I do remember back in the day, it was like $200 a month or something like that. And she put herself out there for that. Like she really did. She wanted to make sure that that was something that we had. And then at some point we did end up getting a scholarship because we were good at it. So there was a little bit of a discount on what we did. But I was dancing. I literally at one point was dancing 3 times a week. And I know that that's a thing for a lot of people. And so you have to weigh, does this, and I feel like I'm calling a new responsibility a problem because we're talking about more money, more problems. But on a monthly basis, these commitments can become a problem.
I think part of it leads into the next thing that really could be seen as a problem is just this expanding lifestyle. Like you start to make more money, and I've seen it with us. You know, we make more money, we have more success, we have expanded our lifestyle in certain ways. You know, we've taken bigger trips or longer trips, or You drive slightly nicer cars, and you do things, and you live in better houses and neighborhoods, which all of that is great. That's part of
Advancing.
the success continuum, and people can measure success in a number of different ways. But I think there's a point when you can be driven by it for other means or other purposes, and you can let the money dictate how you do that. And if you do it the wrong way, or you do it, too fast, or let the expectations of external factors drive you, that's where I see the problems come in. Because you buy, a huge house that maybe you can make the mortgage payment, but then the tax bill doubles.
Oof.
Or, now you got to have a higher home insurance policy, and all your utilities are going to double. And if you ain't factor all that in, now you can be in trouble. And we already talked about cars and maintenance and things like that. So it's like that's where some of the problems I see can become an issue with more money.
And I think the biggest thing for me is it'll become a problem if you don't have a standard. So I think we need to, your family needs to have a standard for your life. What are the things that we will allow and what won't we allow? Where are we going to put up some healthy boundaries so that we protect ourselves from behaviors that are not going to lead us down the path to where we want to go? And so what is that standard that we have set? Where do we push back and say no? Where do we say this is our limit? Or where do we say we're not going to participate because that just doesn't line up with where we are, right? And so, and we had this standard with our daughter with soccer. She played, rec soccer, and she did really well and was on a higher team and all that. And there became a point where we were thinking about, do we invest time and money into the travel team? And we talked to her about it because this wasn't just our decision. She was a preteen or a teenager, and we were just thinking, okay, so does it make sense? Do we invest in this? Is this something you want? Will you put in the effort, right? Because it requires more of you. It requires travel of us. It requires dollars that we've not spent,
Well,
what I mean? Like extra.
Those 3 practices a week, she was like, I'm out.
Right. And so I think that's the other thing is we don't need to put more problems even on our kids just because we want them to be the best of the best. You know what I mean? Like it's okay for our kids to enjoy something without there being this thing at the end. And what's so cool about it is today she plays soccer in college as a recreation. You know what I mean? It's just fun. And so it doesn't always have to lead to this eventual money grab, right? It might just be something that they enjoy in the moment.
I think that's a good example because she was actually a pretty good kid in soccer. And I think if she had gone to travel, she could have enhanced her skill set because she'd have had more practice time. She'd have had, coaches that were better than just, her dad. Who didn't play soccer, but
you were a great coach, though.
I was committed.
Yeah,
I was studying and learning.
Mm-hmm.
But she could have had access to other coaches, and she could have had the opportunity to compete for scholarships and things. I do believe that. But even with that, what I found is like if you're not a top athlete and you don't get the chance to choose from all the top schools, sometimes you might choose a lesser school just because they're giving you a scholarship when maybe you can get an academic scholarship, which she ultimately did, and that's a better school for you. Mm-hmm. And she can still appreciate the sport. Like that was a great season in our life for she and I because I coached her for 7 years. So that was 7 years of, memories and connections that she and I were building while we appreciated the sport. And she still appreciates the sport and plays it today. So if it was something different for me and it didn't, we set a boundary and we included her in that decision. Mm-hmm. So it really did, we didn't succumb and just say, oh, we're just going to put you on a travel team.
Yeah.
We're going to pay these thousands of dollars in fees and then thousands and thousands of dollars in travel expenses. So I think that's a good example. But I got another one, but I'll bring it back. But
I was going to say on the flip side, our other daughter, 4 years in marching band. And it was an investment of money and it was an investment of time. Now, because it was with the school, it wasn't a super huge investment of money, but she did not want to let that go. Like we're the parents that we were like, okay, you could take a semester off of an activity and, relax and breathe. And she just would not. She just did not
she
take
was
any
super
time.
committed.
She was very, very committed. And I'm thankful that we had the dollars to be able to invest. And we did have an opportunity where she went to LA and she was, in the marching band, went out there for a parade, and we were able to make that happen for her. But it was also like a lot, I would say, in terms of a commitment, and not just financially, but she was ready for that commitment. She didn't mind the commitment. She was going to take that. And so, and these were conversations we had as well. And so I would say, like, it is the responsibility and it is the money. And I think when it concerns our kids, I do think that we need to have conversation to make sure that they're committed as well. Otherwise, a lot of people will get off into paying for stuff that their kids care nothing about.
Yep.
Or they will commit them to something that they are just not interested in. And I'm not about that life. So I'm not about to create a problem that I don't need. So if my kid is happy, great. But if they're not interested, let's pull back. Let's have that balance.
So here's an example I think for a lot of people they can relate to. And we've owned several homes and we've lived in multiple states. And I recall when we were going from one state to another, we were buying a home and I say, we were buying a comparable home or it might be, slightly elevated, because it was a little bit bigger. But when we were making that decision to purchase a home, we said, okay, the bank came back, said, this is what you guys qualify for based on income. What the bank says you can, quote, I'm doing air quotes right now, people, what you can, quote unquote, afford. Mm-hmm. And we said, okay, bank, appreciate it, but you and I said, we're not going to spend over X, which was significantly less than what the bank said that we could afford.
Yep.
And we stuck to our guns. Like, even when we were out looking at houses, we said we want a house in this price range and we are not going over. And we made sure the realtor didn't send us anything that took us beyond where we wanted to be. And that took some discipline because you're at a point where you could say, okay, well, technically we can afford more. And this house may have this. And you start to fall in love with different aspects of it. But I remember that time we looked at like 30 houses and we were like, no, we're going to stick to our guns. And I believe that having that presence of mind in that moment is what's putting us in a position today where, our house is going to be paid off in the next year or so. And had we stretched it,
yes,
we wouldn't be able to make that statement.
Exactly.
Because it would have been, we still owe a lot more. And it was like, nope, we're not doing it. Because I think even then, some years ago, we had a vision that looked forward. Mm-hmm. And in that vision, we were like, no, this is not something, look, I can't be paying mortgages forever.
No. I mean, and who said that we need to be paying mortgages forever? No, we're not doing that.
No way. But I think that's something that people that are listening really could relate to and understand. And it goes for any purchase that you're going to make. Just because you get qualified for it doesn't mean you take it up to that limit.
That's right.
You can elevate, you can go from one level to the next level without going from one level up 2 or 3 levels.
Right.
And so that's just part of being smart. It's part of having wisdom. It's part of, looking at the bigger plan, the bigger yes. So
I love that. And I want to talk about the concept of more money, more opportunity, because you were talking about some of the decisions that we made in lieu of the expanding lifestyle so much that it gets out of control. And so what if more money's led to more opportunities. So when you get a raise or you get a new job, or you start a business and more money starts coming in, start conceptualizing what's possible towards your goals, right? So, and for some reason in my head, I'm thinking a $5,000 raise per year is $400 a month, basically. And what could you do towards your goals or your debt
Sounds like a
reduction?
funded Roth IRA.
Sounds like a Roth IRA, or sounds like, another couple percent into your 401k, or it sounds like you can pay off a debt in 12 months. What can you do towards your goals that are going to catapult you to the next level in your life? And so I think more money, and this is just simply the concept of when you get a raise or when you get more income, you instead of expanding lifestyle, it goes towards the highest priority thing that is next on your list of to-do items. And I lean towards paying off debt, saving more money, investing for your future, as opposed to spending more on the kids or getting another car or getting a bigger house.
So here's what I hear you saying, which I think this is a good practical thing for people to do. Create a wish list.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Create a wish list and say, hey, when more money comes in and it affords, this is lifestyle that we want to increase. We're going to put this on the wish list. We want to go from, one level of car to another level. We want to go from one level of house to another. We want to engage in, better vacations, or we want to, spend more on clothes, whatever it is. We want to dine out more because nobody likes to cook, but have a wish list. And then as money comes in, cross-reference the money that comes in with that wish list and say, okay, what makes sense to do on this wish list? And you could put at the top of that, eliminate debt or increase your 401k, because a lot of times they say if you get a raise, increase your 401k by 1%. Have that on the wish list. But that's what I hear you saying is a good practical thing for people to do if they want to approach and manage the more money and not create the more problems.
And I think it's also fair to consider, all right, we did this because you've been a salesperson for, most of our relationship. And so you would get bonus. You would always be up for some type of bonus at some point. It would change depending on the job that you had. And we wouldn't put every single dollar towards a debt, for instance.
Right.
We would typically have something fun on our wish list that we would splurge on or enjoy, in addition to a chunk on debt, or in addition to increasing a percentage on our, or investing dollars or what have you. We would do both or some type of combination. So there was never a feeling of deprivation where all of the money has got to go towards the debt repayment. We didn't do that because that, honestly, that's it. To me, it's demotivating. I want to feel like we can go and celebrate how well you've done at work and have a nice dinner out, or, go get the kids some new outfits or whatever. And in addition to that, be able to put a large, significant chunk onto debt or into savings.
Yeah, and that's what we always talked about. You got to pay yourself first. And that could be savings, that could be retirement, eliminate the debt, and then do all these other things. And, once you get rid of the debt, then you just say, I'm going to save or I'm going to enjoy. And then, you keep doing your savings, you just do more enjoyment. So, but let's get to the point, like what would you say for you is your, make it worth it moment around this? More money, more problems.
I think it would be a really good idea for people to think about what is the problem they currently have? What is the money problem they have created and how can they fix it? And then also, what are the opportunities that they could potentially move into, right? And so I think that if we consider the problems we've already created and figure out ways to fix those, and then the opportunities that we have at our disposal to shift it to, that's just a really good exercise in making it worth it today.
Yeah, I would say don't be driven by the Joneses. Don't try and keep up with them. Just because you got more money, the Joneses have a whole bunch of problems that you might not know about.
Woo, because you know what?
Don't be driven.
Paycheck to paycheck living don't discriminate. Okay.
Right. So don't be driven by just what you see, because you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. So, I go back to make that wish list, live within your means, leave some margin, all of that stuff, because that creates, a calmer sense of that just creates calm. And so that's my make it worth it. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been fun. I feel like this is valuable in terms of us understanding how to not create new problems. So I'm really excited about, how that's going to make an impact for people and, what they're going to get out of it.
yeah, and I look forward to coming up with additional things to bring to you all and just continue to talk. And until next time,
We're out.
thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up for our email on forbetterandworth.com.
Till next time, we're out of here.